Oh, this is the Kubernetes SIG cluster lifecycle meeting for cluster API provider AWS of the 23rd of August, 2021. Please be aware we're abiding by the CNCF code of conduct, which broadly is be excellent to each other. Please use the raise hand feature if you want to speak. We'll get started. So one PSA so far, the version 0.7 release is out. So this is the first V1 Alpha 4 release. You should be able to upgrade from the last release. Everything should continue working. Apart from EKS, where we've done some changes. Richard, do you want to speak to what we have done with EKS?
Yeah, sure. So we made quite a few changes. So the first big change is EKS is enabled by default. Previously, you had to set a environment variable before you did cluster cutoff in it. Now that's not the case. You can disable EKS functionality by setting a new environment variable. So it's just been flipped the other way around, and the environment variable is named differently. We also have combined the controllers. We previously had a separate control plane and bootstrap provider for EKS. These have now been merged into the main infrastructure provider. So that makes the cluster cutoff in it easier, because you just have to say infrastructure provider AWS, as opposed to having to list bootstrap and control plane providers. What else was changed? So AWS managed cluster as a CRD has been removed. Now this shouldn't have been used really, because we did actually remove all references to it pretty much from documentation a few releases back. The machine pool functionality still remains in experimental, and the Fargate profile functionality remains experimental. Both of those still behind. Well, machine pool still behind the existing feature flag, and the Fargate profiles behind a new feature flag. I think that's it from the EKS side. And well, actually, and we have I have a PR open in upstream CAPI to remove the bootstrap and the control plane providers from cluster cutoff. So I need to get that merged. Yeah, that's it.
Cool. So please check it out and report if you like it. Any changes you want made. Yeah. So I didn't see anything interesting in the action items. I'm gonna move my last one. So first of all, do you want to talk about the reviewers change PR, Richard?
Yep. So in the last meeting, we discussed adding people as reviewers to Kappa, and removing some existing people to off of maintainers. So there's a PR open for that. It's been open for you for about a week and a half now. So it was adding Daniel, Shivani, and Ankita to be reviewers mainly, and removing Radoy and Michael Beaumont from the maintainers or reviewers list. I forget which way around they were. Yeah, the PR's open, so if you have any comments or +1s on that, or if anyone else is interested in being a reviewer, feel free to comment on the PR. I'll put a link.
Should we set a deadline on like end of week and then merge it?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sorry. Any comments? If not, next item is the IAM policy size limitation. That's Matisse and Johannes. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. Hi, everyone. Yeah, actually, we didn't have time to sync on that. Johannes, do you want to proceed, or because you have more details than I do?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. Can you guys hear me properly? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool, thanks. Yeah, so Mateusz and I have been working for a while now on adding ignition support to support ignition-based OSs, mainly Flatcar, which we maintain as well. And when getting to the end-to-end test part, we actually hit a limit, an AWS limit for the maximum number of characters in the managed policy that you create. And yeah, I think we're the first ones to hit this limit because we've been really close to the limit, but only in end-to-end tests when you enable a lot of knobs in the AWS cluster AWS CTL config, then you hit the limit. And the reason we hit it now is because we added about 5 lines to the rules. So yeah, the PR that I linked to 662 proposes a fix for this problem. This is currently a blocker for a PR that we want to merge around the ignition work, but random people are going to be hitting this limit whenever we add some more lines to the policy, and that's why I wanted to solve that, because apparently, yeah, it is a general problem and not something that only affects the ignition work. Yeah, latest status on that PR is a discussion between Nadir and myself. And yeah, basically right now we have to decide whether we proceed with that, and if we do, what the right approach is, because there have been some suggestions that this merits a design discussion and possibly a minor version increment. So I wanted to basically bring that up. As far as I'm concerned, this is a rather small change and is under the hood because we're not really modifying anything in terms of the final IAM decision. We're just moving some rules around to a new policy that is attached to the same entity. So I wanted to actually see whether we indeed need such a design discussion and document around that, and also whether this merits a new minor release. So any thoughts on that?
So I've got one. So speaking from a VMware perspective, this currently won't affect us because we're not supporting EKS yet. But if a similar sort of change had been made on the unmanaged side, we would have to inform customers about it, because like they tend to be quite I mean, they already complain about seeing star in a resource anyway. It's like, well, it's a dynamic cluster management tool, so we can't we're allowing people to create different type clusters with different names, therefore we need to have star of some sort, or you can restrict yourself. So they start to complain a lot about when there are changes. So from that perspective, it would suggest to me that doing a version increment and like putting a big highlight at the top saying this is what's happening, please be aware, would be useful. But yeah, so if we're being consistent, then I would do the same for EKS, especially as we have now moved out of experimental. We should provide the same sorts of API stability around that. So that was just my thoughts, but personally speaking, it doesn't affect us.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So if I understand you correctly, Nadir, this is basically sort of a big FYI for users. You know, something changed, just watch out. And we're not aware of something that is definitely going to impact users if we do this change, assuming we don't break the policy and forget to move some rule or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm almost keen to ask Richard for his take, because Beaverworks has customers using the EKS, and maybe don't know if any of the new relic folk are around.
Yeah, I'd have to think about it. Yeah, Dane would be a good person to ask as well. Maybe it's worth picking him in the channel as well.
Yeah, let's do that then.
Cool. And one last thing. So for now, the only The only thing that I propose to change is to move all the EKS related resources to a new policy. First of all, because the EKS part is the biggest in the only problematic policy we have to date, which is the controllers policy. And EKS amounts to about 50% of the policy size. So if we only break that out, then we have already solved the problem. We would have solved the problem. And also EKS is sort of like neatly, like all the EKS statements are neatly coupled under a big conditional. So it just made sense to me to separate that. But theoretically, we could move other resources around. We would just have more smaller policies. And we have to remember that we have a limit of 10 policies attached to an entity in IAM by default. So if we create 12 policies, then we create a new problem. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think broadly the change is desirable, actually, like having seen the EKS policies in their own thing gives a clearer picture to customers using both. They know what belongs to which side. So I think we should definitely do it. I think it's whether it merits a re-08 release, which we have done in the past. Like we unlike core CAPI, we've not kept version numbers and API versions in sync to announce new features or behavioral changes.
Okay, cool. So a new version it is. Do we still need a design proposal for that, or
no? I think it should be fine. I'm almost tempted to say if we can queue it up with all of the flat car support, so then we can say v080 flat car support plus these changes. It's like a nice feature release in that sense. So if we go and get the consensus on the CAPI PR in the core repo and get that merged, and then get it all ordered in Kappa, we can announce flat core support as the thing for v008.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, right now we're practically stuck because we cannot end-to-end test the new feature, and we have to, merge the two branches locally to a temporary branch just so that we can run the end-to-end test. So yeah, sounds good to me. All right, I think we can move on unless there are any other comments on that.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. I'll leave some like other small comments in the PR then.
Cool, sounds good.
Thanks a lot.
All right, final thing is roadmap. So we've done our V1 Alpha 4 release. So I think now's the time to start thinking about what do we want to do for the next releases. Now, from a VMware perspective, we're going to go back and get the test signal into a better state for so we're going to concentrate on that for now rather than plow ahead with more features. So it's really kind of open now in terms of what we want to do. I know there was thanks Johannes for filling in the meeting notes. It's difficult to do when you're also just thanks. So I think now if I was just wondering if anyone's got any major things they want Kappa to move forwards with. There are some CAPI related features around the load balancer provider that are already starting, but I was wondering if there's other big ticket items that we'd like to do in Kappa. Richard.
Speaking from a selfish point of view, I'd like to get the end-to-end test coverage on the EKS side improved. Very much it's just a happy path, synchronous test. Doesn't cover everything. It doesn't cover like Bastion scenarios or Fargate profiles as an example. So personally, I'm probably going to focus on that side of things.
Sounds good. Anything else that people have? Mostly want to maybe from the consumers like Dane, like people are using Kappa from a day-to-day basis. Just for your also interest, we are working on like the image management piece as well. So like, how do you get AMIs? But we don't have anything to share just yet. We're still figuring out some bits. But I was wondering if there's anything else. No. In which case, what I'll do, there's the discussion feature that we've got in GitHub. So I'll start a new thread on there, much like the core cluster API thing. And I'll put a thing in the Kappa Slack, and if people can give their ideas. I'll probably sprung this out to you last minute, really. So that if I start the issue, start putting your ideas down, and we can come back and discuss in 2 weeks. Yeah, all right, people are nodding. All right, and I see some stuff in there being added to the doc. So yeah, all right, let's come back in 2 weeks. Is there anything else that people would like to discuss? And whilst we're here. No? All happy? All right, going once, going twice, 3 times. All right, see you in a fortnight. Bye, thanks.
Thank you, folks.